You left a mark on me. I just replied.
The termination letter hit my desk like a capital punishment. Crisp white paper bearing the corporate seal that had once meant job security. Effective immediately, it read, due to gross misconduct and theft of company property. I stared at the words until they blurred, rain hammering against the 23rd floor windows of Meridian Industries, like bullets against glass. "I'm sorry, Alex," said Janet from HR, though her tone suggested she was about as sorry as a shark apologizing to a seal. "The evidence is overwhelming." Evidence. Right. I flipped through the manila folder she'd slid across the mahogany conference table. Photographs of me supposedly accessing restricted files, bank statements showing mysterious deposits, email printouts with my signature authorizing unauthorized purchases. All of it looked real. All of it was BS. "This is fabricated," I said, keeping my voice level despite the rage building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. "Someone set me up." Janet's smile was thin as paper. "That's what they all say, Mr. Brandt." Behind her, Mark Linton leaned against the wall, arms crossed, wearing that same smug expression he'd perfected in college. My old friend. My wife's new obsession, though I hadn't figured that part out yet. He was supposed to be here as a witness. Company protocol demanded 2 management-level employees present for terminations. But something about his posture, the way he avoided my eyes while barely suppressing a grin, made my skin crawl. "Funny thing about evidence," I said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. "Sometimes it tells a story the investigators never intended." Mark's smile faltered for just a second. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I lied, standing and straightening my tie. "Just thinking out loud." The walk to the elevator felt like a death march. 37 years old, 15 years with the company, and now I was just another casualty of corporate politics. The logistics department had been my kingdom. I knew every supplier, every shipping route, every dirty little secret about how Meridian moved its products from factory to store. That knowledge had made me valuable. Apparently, it had also made me dangerous. My phone buzzed as the elevator descended. A text from Erica, my wife of 8 years. "Heard about work. We need to talk when you get home." Heard about work, not "I'm sorry" or "Are you okay?" Just clinical acknowledgement that my career had imploded. I should have seen the red flag waving like a surrender banner, but I was too busy planning my next move to notice my marriage was already over. The rain soaked through my jacket before I reached the parking garage. My sedan, a practical Honda that Erica constantly nagged me to replace, sat in its assigned spot like a faithful dog waiting for its master. I sat behind the wheel for 10 minutes, engine running, heat blasting, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The evidence was too clean, too convenient. Someone had spent months building a case against me, planting documents, creating a paper trail that would satisfy any internal investigation. But who? And why? My phone rang. Erica again. "Alex? Where are you?" "Sitting in the parking garage of my former employer," I said, contemplating the meaninglessness of existence. "Don't be dramatic. Come home. We need to discuss our options." Our options. Like we were a team. Like she hadn't known this was coming. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said, and hung up before she could respond. The drive home through the industrial district gave me time to think. The setup was professional. Whoever orchestrated it understood corporate bureaucracy, knew which buttons to push and which forms to file. They also had access to my computer, my email, my personnel file. That narrowed the suspect list considerably. Our house sat on Maple Street in a neighborhood that had seen better decades. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a mortgage that would outlive cockroaches. Erica's BMW was in the driveway, pristine white paint gleaming despite the rain. My practical Honda looked embarrassed parked next to it. She was waiting in the living room, perched on the edge of our leather couch, like a cat ready to pounce. Still beautiful at 34, still the ambitious PR executive who'd swept me off my feet in a downtown bar 9 years ago. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a perfect bun, her navy suit unwrinkled despite a full day at the office. She looked like success. I looked like failure. "We need to talk about damage control," she said without preamble. "Hello to you too, sweetheart." I loosened my tie and collapsed into my recliner. "How was your day?" "Mine was fantastic. Got accused of embezzlement and fired in front of my oldest friend." "This isn't the time for sarcasm, Alex." "When is the time?" "Because I've got a lot built up." She stood and began pacing, heels clicking against hardwood like a countdown timer. "I've been making calls. There might be legal options, but we need to be smart about this. My reputation is on the line too. Her reputation. Of course, Erica had spent years climbing the ladder at Morrison and Associates, one of the city's premier PR firms. A husband accused of corporate theft wouldn't exactly enhance her professional image. What kind of legal options? I asked. Wrongful termination, defamation, but only if we can prove the evidence was planted. It was planted. Can you prove it? That was the million-dollar question. I had suspicions, theories, a growing certainty that Mark Linton was involved somehow, but suspicions wouldn't hold up in court. I'll figure it out, I said. Erica stopped pacing and fixed me with a stare that could have frozen the rain outside. You'll figure it out? Alex, this is serious. We could lose the house. My career could be destroyed. We need professional help. Professional help costs money. Money I no longer earn. I earn money. Right, your job. How secure is that exactly, now that your husband is a suspected criminal? The question hit home. I saw it in the way her shoulders tensed, the slight tremor in her hands as she smoothed her skirt. For the first time since I'd walked through the door, she looked vulnerable. We'll be fine, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I wanted to comfort her, to promise everything would work out, to be the supportive husband she deserved. But something held me back. A nagging suspicion that had been growing for months. The late nights at the office, the hushed phone calls, the way she'd grown distant, distracted, like her mind was always somewhere else. Where were you last night? I asked. The question came out of nowhere, surprising us both. Erica's eyes widened slightly. What? Last night, you said you were working late on the Henderson account, but when I called your office at 9, security said the building was empty. I was at dinner with clients. Which clients? Alex, what is this? I'm trying to help you and you're interrogating me? She was right. I was being paranoid, letting stress and suspicion poison my judgment. My wife wasn't the enemy. She was the one person I could count on to stand by me while I figured out who had destroyed my career. I'm sorry, I said. This whole thing has me rattled. Erica's expression softened. She crossed the room and perched on the arm of my recliner, her hand resting on my shoulder. We'll get through this, she said. Together. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because if I couldn't trust my wife, I couldn't trust anyone. But as she headed upstairs to change clothes, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Her phone, lying face up on the coffee table, lit up with a text message preview. Mark, everything went perfectly. He suspects nothing. See you tomorrow. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed listening to Erica's breathing, watching shadows dance across the ceiling, replaying that text message in my mind like a broken record. Everything went perfectly. He suspects nothing. By morning, I'd convinced myself I'd misread it. Stress could play tricks on the mind, make you see conspiracies where none existed. But when I checked Erica's phone while she showered, a violation of trust that would have horrified me a week earlier, the message was gone, deleted. Erica emerged from the bathroom looking like she was heading to a board meeting instead of a day of supporting her unemployed husband. Power suit, perfect makeup, the armor of a woman who conquered corporate America, one client at a time. I'm meeting with our attorney this morning, she announced, checking her reflection in the dresser mirror. Richard Morrison thinks we might have grounds for a lawsuit. Richard Morrison, her boss, the silver-haired king of crisis management who'd built his firm's reputation on making scandals disappear. Since when do you discuss our personal business with your boss? I asked. Since my husband became a liability. The words came out sharper than she'd intended. She softened her tone. I mean, since we needed professional advice. Right. She kissed my forehead. A gesture that felt more like obligation than affection, and headed downstairs. I listened to her heels clicking across the kitchen tile, the garage door rumbling open, the BMW's engine purring to life. Then silence. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the rain-soaked backyard through our sliding glass door. 15 years of loyalty to Meridian Industries, flushed away based on fabricated evidence. Someone had planned this carefully, methodically. But why target me specifically? My phone rang. Unknown number. Alex Brandt? Speaking. This is Detective Sarah Ward, City Police. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your employment at Meridian Industries. My coffee went cold in my hands. Am I under arrest? No, sir, but there's been a complaint filed and I need to follow up. Can you come down to the station this morning? What kind of complaint? I'd prefer to discuss this in person. An hour later, I sat across from Detective Ward in an interrogation room that smelled like disinfectant and despair. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with prematurely gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. A stack of files sat between us on the metal table. "Tell me about your relationship with Mark Linton," she said without preamble. "He's a friend. Was a friend. We went to college together." "When did you last speak with him?" "Yesterday, when he witnessed my termination." Ward opened the top file and slid a photograph across the table. It showed me and Mark at Brennan's pub 3 weeks earlier, heads close together in what looked like an intimate conversation. "What were you discussing here?" I remembered the night clearly. Mark had called, said he needed to talk, seemed agitated about something. We'd met for drinks, and he'd spent 2 hours complaining about office politics, budget cuts, the usual corporate drama. "Work stuff," I said. He was stressed about his quarterly numbers. He says you approached him about falsifying shipping records. The accusation hit like a physical blow. "That's a lie. He says you offered him money to help you inflate inventory reports." "Detective Ward, I've never falsified anything in my life." She slid another photograph across the table. This one showed me leaving Mark's apartment building 2 months ago. "What were you doing at his residence?" "Helping him move furniture. His girlfriend had moved out, and he needed help rearranging his living room." "His girlfriend?" Something in her tone made me pause. "Yeah, Jennifer something. They'd been dating for about 6 months." Ward made a note in her file. "Mr. Linton claims you've been maltreating him, making threats, trying to involve him in illegal activities." "This is insane. Mark and I have been friends for 15 years. "People change, Mr. Brandt. Sometimes they get desperate." I leaned back in the plastic chair, mind racing. Someone was systematically destroying my life, and they were using my oldest friend to do it. The question was whether Mark was a willing participant or another sufferer. "I want to see these shipping records I supposedly falsified," I said. Ward hesitated, then pulled out a thick folder. "These are copies. The originals are evidence." I flipped through the pages, recognizing my digital signature on dozens of documents. Purchase orders for inventory that didn't exist. Shipping manifests for deliveries that never happened. Transfer authorizations moving phantom products between warehouses. It was masterful work. Whoever had created these forgeries understood the system intimately, knew exactly which forms would trigger automatic approvals and which would require manual oversight. The amounts were small enough to avoid immediate detection, but large enough to add up to serious money over time. "This is sophisticated," I said. "Whoever did this had administrative access to multiple systems." "You had administrative access. So did a dozen other people." "Name them." I rattled off the list. "Department heads, IT administrators, senior logistics coordinators." Mark's name was on that list. "Detective, I need you to understand something. I didn't do this, but I'm going to find out who did." Ward's expression remained neutral. "Mr. Brandt, I strongly advise you not to conduct your own investigation. If you're innocent, the evidence will clear you." "Will it?" "Because so far, the evidence has been pretty convincing, and it's all fake." I left the police station feeling like a marked man. The net was closing around me, crafted by someone who understood exactly how to manipulate the system. But they'd made one mistake. They'd underestimated my ability to fight back. My first stop was Brennan's Pub, a dive bar near the docks where rumors flowed as freely as the whiskey. Rosie Martinez had been tending bar there for 20 years, and she knew everyone's secrets. If Mark Linton was involved in something dirty, she'd know about it. The pub was nearly empty at 2 in the afternoon, just a few regulars nursing beers and watching sports highlights on the mounted TVs. Rosie looked up from wiping glasses as I approached the bar. Well, if it isn't the infamous Alex Brandt. News travels fast. Honey, in this neighborhood, gossip moves faster than light. She poured me a beer without being asked. So did you really steal from Meridian? What do you think? She studied my face with eyes that had evaluated thousands of customers over the years. I think someone's playing games with you. Any idea who? Rosie glanced around the empty bar, then leaned closer. Your friend Mark's been coming in here a lot lately, usually with a woman. Jennifer? Nah, this one's classier. Redhead, expensive clothes. They sit in the back booth and whisper like they're planning something. My blood turned to ice water. Redhead? Auburn, actually, real pretty. Drives a white BMW. The beer turned to ash in my mouth. Erica, My wife had been meeting secretly with Mark Linton, the man who just accused me of trying to involve him in fraud. How long has this been going on? Couple months. They're real careful about it. Never arrive together, never leave together. But honey, I've seen enough affairs to recognize the signs. An affair, of course. The late nights, the deleted text messages, the growing distance between us. My wife was sleeping with my best friend, and together they destroyed my career. Rosie, I need a favor? Name it. If they come in again, call me. I need to know what they're planning. She nodded grimly. You got it, sugar. Nobody likes a cheater. I drove home through streets that looked different now, darker somehow, like the city itself had turned against me. Every traffic light seemed to last forever. Every pedestrian looked suspicious. Paranoia was setting in, but that didn't mean they weren't really out to get me. The house felt empty when I walked in, though Erica's car was in the driveway. I found her in the home office, laptop open, phone pressed to her ear. I have to go, she said quickly when she saw me. We'll finish this later. Who was that? Richard Morrison. We were discussing your case. Another lie. I was getting good at spotting them now. The way her eyes shifted to the left, the slight pause before she answered, the overly casual tone. How did it go with the attorney? Good. He thinks we have options. What kind of options? She closed her laptop and stood, smoothing her skirt. Alex, can we talk about this later? I have a conference call in 10 minutes. With who? Clients. Which clients? Her patience snapped. Why are you interrogating me? I'm trying to help you, and you're treating me like a criminal. Maybe because I'm starting to understand how it feels. The accusation hung between us like smoke. Erica's face went pale, then flushed with anger. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know about you and Mark. The words came out before I could stop them. Erica's expression cycled through surprise, fear, and finally cold calculation. I don't know what you're talking about. Brennan's pub, back booth. Auburn-haired woman in expensive clothes, meeting secretly with my oldest friend. She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. Finally, she sighed. It's not what you think. Really? What is it then? Mark came to me for advice. He was worried about you, said you'd been acting strange, talking about illegal schemes. I was trying to help. By meeting him in secret? By keeping it confidential. I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. The lie was so smooth, so perfectly crafted that I almost believed it, almost. Show me your phone, I said. What? Your phone. If you've got nothing to hide, show me your text messages with Mark. Alex, this is ridiculous. Show me. She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. I'm not going to be interrogated in my own home. She brushed past me, heading for the stairs. I grabbed her arm, not hard, just enough to stop her. We're not done talking. Yes, we are. She pulled free and continued upstairs. A moment later, I heard the bedroom door slam, followed by the click of the lock engaging. I stood alone in the hallway, surrounded by the debris of my life. My career was gone. My marriage was a lie. My best friend had betrayed me, but I wasn't knocking yet. If they wanted to play games, I'd show them how the game was really played. 3 days of unemployment had taught me that daytime television was a special kind of hell, and that a man could consume an unhealthy amount of coffee while plotting revenge. I'd set up a command center in the garage, my laptop, a borrowed camera with a telephoto lens, and a growing collection of evidence that painted an increasingly clear picture of my wife's betrayal. Erica had been avoiding me since our confrontation, leaving early for work and returning late, claiming client emergencies and deadline pressures. Her lies were getting more elaborate, which meant she was getting desperate. Desperate people made mistakes. My phone buzzed. Rosie from Brennan's. They're here, she said without preamble. Back booth, same as always. I grabbed my camera and keys. Keep them there if you can. I'll make sure their drinks stay full. The drive to the pub took 12 minutes in afternoon traffic. I parked across the street with a clear view of the entrance and waited. Through the telephoto lens, I could see them through the window. Erica and Mark, heads close together over what looked like documents spread across the table. Mark appeared agitated, gesturing with his hands while Erica remained calm, controlled. She reached across the table and placed her hand over his, a gesture that could have been comforting or intimate. The camera captured both possibilities. They stayed for an hour, when though they finally prepared to leave, I was ready. Mark exited first, looking both ways before heading to his car. Erica waited 5 minutes, then followed. I managed to photograph them through the window, capture Mark's license plate, and document the time and location. But I wanted more than photographs. I wanted to know what they'd been discussing. I waited until both cars disappeared, then entered the pub. Rosie was clearing their table, stacking glasses and wiping down surfaces. "Learn anything interesting?" I asked. "They left this behind." She handed me a napkin with handwriting on it. Erica's handwriting. A phone number and the words, "Call after 6 p.m. Any idea whose number? "No, but I can tell you they were arguing about money. Heard the woman say something about covering expenses and making sure everything looks legitimate." More pieces of the puzzle. I thanked Rosie and headed home to do some research. The phone number belonged to a law firm, Castellano and Associates, specialists in employment law and corporate litigation. I'd never heard of them, but a quick internet search revealed they were expensive, discreet, and very good at making problems disappear. Why would Erica need a lawyer? She wasn't the one accused of embezzlement, unless she was planning to file for divorce and wanted to protect her assets before my legal troubles got worse. The thought hit me like a sledgehammer. Of course, the affair, the frame job, the systematic destruction of my credibility, it was all preparation for a divorce that would leave her with everything and me with nothing. She'd emerge as the innocent sufferer of a criminal husband, while I'd be lucky to avoid prison. It was brilliant. Ruthless, but brilliant. My phone rang. Unknown number again. Alex Brandt? Yeah. This is Jake Morrison from Channel 7 News. I'm doing a story about corporate fraud at Meridian Industries. Would you like to comment? The media. Of course they'd gotten wind of the story. No comment. Mr. Brandt, we have sources saying you've been embezzling money for months. This is your chance to tell your side. I said no comment. I hung up, but the damage was done. By tonight, my face would be on the evening news, branded as a corporate criminal. Erica's plan was moving into its final phase. I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Liam Kowalski was my cousin, 3 years younger and infinitely more tech-savvy. He ran a computer repair shop downtown, but his real expertise was in digital forensics and what he diplomatically called information recovery. If anyone could help me prove the evidence against me was fabricated, it was Liam. "Alex, heard you got fired. That sucks, man." "It's worse than that. Someone set me up and I need your help proving it." "What kind of help?" "The illegal kind." Liam was quiet for a moment. "Come by the shop after closing time. We'll talk." At 8 p.m., I found myself in the back room of Kowalski Computer Repair, surrounded by dismantled hard drives and the electronic graveyard of outdated technology. Liam looked like every Hollywood stereotype of a hacker. Thin, pale, energy drinks and pizza boxes scattered around his workspace. "Show me what you've got," he said. I spread out copies of the forged documents, the photographs from Brennan's pub, and a timeline I'd constructed of Erica and Mark's secret meetings. Someone with administrative access to Meridian systems created these shipping records, I explained. The digital signatures look real, but they have to be fakes. Liam studied the documents with the intensity of a surgeon examining X-rays. "These are good, really good. Whoever did this understands database architecture and digital authentication protocols." "Can you prove they're fake?" "Maybe. Every digital signature has metadata, information about when and where it was created, what software was used, that kind of thing. If these were forged, the metadata might not match what it should be. How long would that take?" "Give me the original files, and I can have an answer in a few hours." "The originals are evidence in a police investigation." Liam grinned. "Then we'll have to get creative." What followed was a crash course in social engineering that would have impressed any con artist. Liam called Meridian's IT help desk, impersonating a police detective who needed technical assistance with a fraud investigation. Within an hour, he'd convinced a helpful technician to email him copies of the disputed files. "People want to be helpful," he explained as the files downloaded, "especially when they think they're assisting law enforcement." The metadata analysis took 3 hours and 2 pots of coffee. When Liam finally looked up from his monitors, he was smiling. "Got them." "What did you find?" "These signatures were created on a single computer over the course of 2 days, 3 weeks ago. The software timestamps show they were all generated between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. "Whose computer?" "That's where it gets interesting. The machine ID traces back to a laptop registered to Mark Linton. Proof. Finally, concrete evidence that Mark had fabricated the documents used to destroy my career. But it wasn't enough. I needed to know why, and I needed to connect Erica to the conspiracy. Can you get into Mark's email?" "Probably, but that's definitely illegal." "So is framing someone for embezzlement." Liam considered this. "Fair point, but if we get caught, We won't get caught. Famous last words, but Liam was already typing. Mark's email password turned out to be embarrassingly simple. His college graduation year combined with his mother's maiden name. Information readily available on social media. What we found in his inbox was better than I'd hoped. Dozens of messages between Mark and Erica dating back 4 months. The early emails were flirtatious, but relatively innocent. The later ones were explicit about both their affair and their plans for my destruction. Alex is getting suspicious, read one message from Erica. We need to move faster. Mark's response, the shipping records are ready. Once I file the complaint with HR, it should only take a few days. Another exchange from 2 weeks ago. Erica, what about the police investigation? Mark, I'll tell them he tried to recruit me. That should be enough to keep them focused on him instead of us. The final piece of evidence was a message from yesterday. Erica, Morrison thinks we should wait another month before filing divorce papers. Wants to make sure Alex's legal troubles are settled first. Morrison, her boss was involved too, helping orchestrate the timing to maximize Erica's advantage in divorce proceedings. Jesus, Liam whispered, your wife is cold-blooded. Cold-blooded didn't begin to cover it. Erica had spent months planning my destruction with the methodical precision of a military campaign. She'd seduced my best friend, convinced him to help frame me for crimes I didn't commit, and coordinated with her boss to ensure the timing worked in her favor. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. I need copies of everything, I told Liam. What are you going to do? What I should have done from the beginning. Fight back. The drive home took me through the industrial district where I'd worked for 15 years, past the Meridian building where my career had died 3 days ago. The parking garage was mostly empty, just a few cars belonging to the overnight security staff. I parked on the street and walked to the building's main entrance. The security guard recognized me. Eddie Vasquez, a guy I'd chatted with hundreds of times over the years. Hey, Alex, heard what happened? That's rough, man. Yeah, well, life goes on. Listen, I left some personal stuff in my desk. Think I could grab it real quick? Eddie hesitated. I'm not supposed to let terminated employees back in the building. Come on, Eddie. It's just some family photos and my coffee mug. 5 minutes. He looked around the empty lobby, then shrugged. 5 minutes, but if anyone asks, you were never here. The logistics department was dark and silent, computer monitors glowing like digital ghosts. My desk had already been cleared out, my nameplate removed, all traces of 15 years erased as if I'd never existed. But I wasn't here for personal items. I was here for Mark's computer. His workstation was locked, but Liam had taught me a few tricks. A bootable USB drive loaded with password-cracking software, and 15 minutes later I was browsing Mark's files. What I found was a digital goldmine. Backup copies of the forged shipping records, email drafts he'd never sent, and most damning of all, a folder labeled Insurance containing photographs of Erica in compromising positions. Mark wasn't just my wife's lover and co-conspirator, he was blackmailing her. The photos were date-stamped from 2 months ago, taken in what looked like a hotel room. Erica was clearly unaware she was being photographed. The images were intimate but not pornographic, the kind of pictures that could destroy a career in public relations without crossing into criminal territory. A text file in the same folder contained Mark's insurance policy. If anything goes wrong with the plan, these photos go to Morrison and Associates, the local media, and Alex. E knows they exist but thinks I deleted them. She's wrong. My wife was being blackmailed by the man she'd trusted to help destroy me. The irony was almost beautiful. I copied everything to a flash drive and erased any trace of my presence. Eddie waved goodbye as I left the building, completely unaware that I'd just gathered enough evidence to bring down everyone involved in the conspiracy. Back home, Erica was waiting in the living room, still dressed in her work clothes despite the late hour. "Where have you been?" she asked. "Out." "Alex, we need to talk." "Do we?" She stood and approached me, her expression softer than it had been in weeks. "I know things have been difficult between us. The stress, the accusations, everything that's happened. But we're still married. We still love each other." "Do we?" "I do." She reached out and touched my face. "I love you, Alex. I know you didn't steal that money." The lie came so easily, delivered with such apparent sincerity, that I almost believed her. Almost. "Prove it," I said. "What?" "If you believe I'm innocent, help me find out who really did this." Her hand dropped away from my face. "Alex, I think you should focus on your legal defense instead of playing detective." "Why? Afraid of what I might find?" "I'm afraid you're going to make things worse for yourself." Worse than losing my job, my reputation, and my wife? You haven't lost me, haven't I? She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact instant she realized I knew. The mask slipped just enough to reveal the calculating woman underneath. I don't know what you think you know, she said carefully. I know about Mark. I know about the meetings at Brennan's pub. I know about the lawyer you've been talking to. Alex, I know about the photographs. That stopped her cold. Her face went pale, then flushed with anger. You've been spying on me. I've been trying to figure out why my wife and my best friend destroyed my life. It's not what you think. Really? Then explain it to me. She was quiet for a long moment, weighing her options. Finally, she sighed. Mark has been blackmailing me with photographs he took while you were having an affair. It wasn't supposed to happen. We were working together on your case, trying to help you, and things got complicated. Another lie, but this one was more desperate. She was trying to salvage something, anything, from the wreckage of her plan. You framed me for embezzlement. No, Mark did that on his own. When I found out, I tried to stop him, but he had those pictures. So you decided to go along with it. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, Erica. You chose to betray me. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no lingering love for the woman I'd married 8 years ago. That woman had never existed. This was who she'd always been. I'd just been too blind to see it. What do you want? She asked. Justice. What does that mean? I smiled, and she took a step backward. It means you and Mark and Morrison are going to pay for what you've done. All of you. Alex, please. We can work this out. No, we can't. I headed for the stairs, leaving her standing in the living room. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. I was drinking coffee and reviewing my evidence files when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Detective Ward and a uniformed officer I didn't recognize. Mr. Brandt, we have a warrant to search your home. I stepped aside and let them enter. Erica appeared at the top of the stairs, looking perfectly composed despite having spent the night on the living room couch. What's this about? She asked, descending with the grace of a woman accustomed to handling crises. We've received additional evidence in the Meridian Industries case, Ward explained. We need to search for documents, computers, anything related to the alleged embezzlement. I watched them work with detached interest. They were thorough but not destructive, photographing everything before moving it, treating our home like a crime scene. Which I supposed it was. Find anything interesting? I asked Ward as she emerged from my home office. We'll let you know. They confiscated my laptop, desktop computer, and several boxes of financial documents. Standard procedure, Ward explained, though she seemed apologetic about the intrusion. After they left, Erica and I stood in our violated living room, surrounded by the debris of the search. This is getting out of hand, she said. Is it? Alex, I meant what I said last night. We can fix this. How? Mark is the real problem. If we work together, we can expose what he's done. I almost laughed. Even now, caught in her own web of lies, she was still trying to manipulate me. You mean throw him under the bus? He used both of us. He deserves whatever happens to him. What about Morrison? Her face went blank. What about him? Your boss, the one helping coordinate the timing of your divorce filing? I don't know what you're talking about. The emails, Erica. I've seen the emails. That got her attention. She stared at me with something approaching respect. You've been busy. I'm a quick learner. She moved to the window and stared out at the street where Detective Ward's car was disappearing around the corner. What do you want? She asked finally. I want my life back. That's not possible. Maybe not, but I can make sure you don't get to enjoy yours. She turned to face me. What does that mean? It means I have copies of everything, the forged shipping records, your emails with Mark, the photographs he's been using to blackmail you. All of it. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of one of her more explicit emails to Mark. Her face went ashen. How? Does it matter? She sank into the couch, suddenly looking older than her 34 years. What do you want? I want you to call Mark. Tell him you need to meet tonight, somewhere public. Why? Because it's time to end this. That evening, I sat in my car across from Riverside Park, watching Erica pace nervously beside the fountain where she'd agreed to meet Mark. She'd been there for 10 minutes, checking her phone repeatedly, looking like a woman about to jump out of her skin. Mark appeared right on schedule, approaching from the parking lot with the confident stride of a man who thought he held all the cards. I raised my camera and began shooting. They talked for several minutes, their body language growing increasingly agitated. Erica gestured toward the street. Toward my car, I realized. She was telling him I was watching. Mark's head swiveled in my direction, but I was too far away for him to see me clearly. He said something that made Erica step backward, then pulled out his phone, threatening her with the photographs, most likely. That's when I made my move. I walked across the park casually, as if I was just another evening jogger taking a break. They didn't notice me until I was 20 feet away. "Evening, folks. Nice night for a conspiracy." Mark spun around, his face cycling through surprise, fear, and anger. "Alex, what are you doing here?" "Watching my wife meet with her lover. You know, the usual Thursday night entertainment." "It's not what you think." "Really? What is it then?" Erica stepped between us. "Alex, please. Let's go home and discuss this privately. I'm done with private discussions. I'm done with lies. I'm done with both of you." Mark found his courage. "You're the one who's done, Alex. You're going to prison for embezzlement." "Am I?" "The evidence is overwhelming. Evidence you created on your laptop at 2 a.m. 3 weeks ago." His confidence wavered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Digital forensics is amazing these days. Every file has a fingerprint. When it was created, what computer was used, even what software generated it. Your fingerprints are all over those forged shipping records." "You can't prove that." "Actually, I can." I pulled out my phone and showed him screenshots of his own email admissions. Amazing what people will put in writing when they think they're safe. The color drained from his face. Beside him, Erica looked like she was going to be sick. "What do you want?" Mark asked. "I want you to confess." "That's not happening. Then you'll go down with the ship, both of you." I started to walk away, but Mark grabbed my arm. "Wait. What?" "Maybe we can work something out." "I'm listening." He looked around the park, making sure we were alone. "What if I told the police I made a mistake? That I misunderstood what you were asking me to do? Not good enough? What if I admitted I created the shipping records myself? Better, but still not enough. What else do you want?" "I want Morrison." Erica gasped. "You can't involve Richard." "Why not? He's been involved from the beginning. He was just giving me legal advice." "He was helping you time the divorce proceedings to maximize your advantage. That makes him an accessory." Mark was sweating now, despite the cool evening air. "Look, Alex, Richard doesn't know about the embezzlement thing. That was all me. But he knows about the affair. He knows about the divorce plans. He knows you two have been working together to destroy my reputation. That's not illegal. Maybe not, but it's unethical. And in the public relations business, unethical can be just as damaging as illegal." I could see the wheels turning in both their heads. Mark was calculating his odds of avoiding prison. Erica was thinking about her career, her reputation, everything she'd worked to build. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "Tomorrow morning, Mark is going to confess to Detective Ward that he fabricated the evidence against me. He's going to explain how he used his administrative access to create false shipping records and plant them in the system. And if I do that, you'll probably go to prison. But you'll go to prison as someone who came clean, which might earn you some leniency." "What about Erica?" "Erica is going to resign from Morrison and Associates and file for divorce. She can keep the house, the car, whatever she wants. I don't care about the money anymore." "That's it?" she asked. "That's it?" "What about Richard?" "Richard is going to have to live with the knowledge that one of his senior executives was sleeping with a client's husband while helping plan said client's divorce. That should be punishment enough." Mark shook his head. "I can't do it. I can't go to prison." "Then you'll go to prison anyway, but with a lot more charges. Conspiracy, fraud, perjury, obstruction of justice. The DA will throw everything at you. You don't have enough evidence. Want to bet?" I showed them both a video file on my phone, security footage from Brennan's pub showing their secret meetings. Rosie had been more helpful than they knew. "How did you get this?" Erica demanded. I asked nicely. Mark's shoulders sagged in defeat. "What guarantee do I have that you won't release those emails anyway?" "You don't, but if you confess and tell the truth, I'll have no reason to destroy you any further than you've already destroyed yourself. And if I don't, then I release everything to the media, the police, Morrison and Associates, and anyone else who might be interested. Your career will be over, your reputation will be ruined, and you'll still go to prison. It wasn't much of a choice, and we all knew it. I need time to think, Mark said. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, I go public with everything. I walked away, leaving them standing by the fountain like two conspirators whose conspiracy had just collapsed around them. In my car, I allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. The trap was sprung. Now I just had to wait for them to walk into it. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Detective Ward. Mr. Brandt, I have some interesting news. We've had a development in your case. What kind of development? Mark Linton wants to amend his statement. He's coming in tomorrow morning with his attorney. Really? He says he made some mistakes in his original complaint. Wants to set the record straight. That's good news. Mr. Brandt, did you have any contact with Mr. Linton today? I considered lying, but decided honesty was the better strategy. We spoke briefly this evening. About what? About the truth. Ward was quiet for a moment. I hope you didn't do anything illegal, Mr. Brandt. I didn't break any laws, Detective. I just showed him some evidence he wasn't aware I had. What kind of evidence? The kind that proves I'm innocent. Another pause. We'll see what Mr. Linton has to say tomorrow. After she hung up, I sat in my driveway for a long time, watching lights come on in houses up and down the street. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that their neighbor had just won a war he'd never wanted to fight. Inside, Erica was waiting in the kitchen, a glass of wine in her hand and another poured for me. Congratulations, she said. You won. Did I? Mark will confess, I'll resign and file for divorce. You'll get your reputation back. And you'll get away with betraying your husband. She took a sip of wine. I suppose I deserve that. You deserve worse. Maybe, but this is what you're getting. I picked up the wine glass and studied the red liquid in the dim kitchen light. Why, Erica? Why did you do it? Because I stopped loving you. The honesty was brutal and unexpected. I'd been prepared for more lies, more manipulation, more attempts to justify the unjustifiable. When? About a year ago, maybe longer. We grew apart, Alex. We became strangers living in the same house. So you decided to destroy me instead of just leaving. I decided to protect myself. The affair with Mark was stupid, but it happened. When he came up with the plan to frame you, I thought it would solve all our problems. By sending me to prison. By giving me grounds for divorce that would leave me financially secure. You could have just asked for half of everything. Half of what? This house with its underwater mortgage? Your pension fund that won't mature for 20 years? I wanted more than that. You wanted everything. I wanted a future. I set down the wine glass without tasting it. Well, you got one. Just not the one you planned, she nodded sadly. Just not the one I planned. The next morning, I watched the news coverage of Mark's confession from the comfort of my living room. The reporter stood outside the police station, explaining how a Meridian Industries employee had admitted to fabricating evidence against a former colleague. My phone had been ringing all morning. Reporters, former co-workers, friends I hadn't heard from in years. The story of my vindication was apparently more interesting than the story of my downfall. Detective Ward called around noon. Congratulations, Mr. Brandt. All charges against you have been dropped. What happens to Mark? He's been arrested on multiple fraud charges. He'll probably plea bargain, but he's looking at serious prison time. And the investigation? Closed as far as you're concerned. We'll need you to testify at his trial, but you're free to get on with your life. Free. After a week of hell, I was finally free. But freedom, I was learning, came with its own complications. 2 weeks later, I sat in the conference room at Morrison & Associates, watching Richard Morrison squirm behind his mahogany desk. The silver-haired king of crisis management looked like he'd aged 10 years since the scandal broke. Mr. Brandt, I want to assure you that neither I nor my firm had any knowledge of the illegal activities perpetrated by Mr. Linton. But you did know about his affair with my wife. Morrison's jaw tightened. That was a personal matter. Was it? Because the email suggests you were actively helping coordinate the timing of divorce proceedings to coincide with my legal troubles. I was providing legal counsel to a client. You were helping her manipulate the system. Morrison stood and walked to the window overlooking the city's financial district. What do you want, Mr. Brandt? I want Erica's resignation letter on my desk by 5 p.m. today. She's already submitted her resignation. I want a public apology from your firm acknowledging that one of your senior executives engaged in unethical conduct. That's not going to happen. Then I'll hold a press conference tomorrow morning and let the media decide whether Morrison and Associates can be trusted to handle crisis management when they can't even manage their own crises. Morrison turned back to face me. You're asking me to destroy my firm's reputation. I'm asking you to take responsibility for your employees' actions. Erica's personal life was her own business, not when she was using your resources to conduct it, not when she was involving you in her schemes. Morrison sat back down heavily. What kind of apology are you looking for? Something sincere, something that acknowledges wrongdoing and promises it won't happen again. And in exchange? In exchange, I don't release the emails showing how you helped plan the timing of my wife's divorce filing. It was a bluff. The emails were suggestive, but not definitively incriminating. But Morrison didn't know that, and his reputation couldn't survive even the appearance of impropriety. I'll have our legal team draft something, he said finally. You have until 5 p.m. I left Morrison's office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The pieces of my revenge were falling into place with satisfying precision. My next stop was Meridian Industries, where I had an appointment with the CEO. James Patterson was a thin, nervous man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than sitting across from the employee his company had wrongfully terminated. Mr. Brandt, on behalf of Meridian Industries, I want to apologize for the injustice you've suffered. We acted on what appeared to be credible evidence, but we should have been more thorough in our investigation. You should have been more careful about who you gave administrative access to. Yes, well, we're reviewing our security protocols. What about my job? Patterson shifted uncomfortably. We'd be happy to discuss reinstatement. Your position is still open. I don't want my old job back. Oh, well then perhaps we could discuss compensation for the damages you've suffered. I'm listening. We're prepared to offer a settlement of $200,000, plus full restoration of your benefits and a positive reference letter. It was more money than I'd expected, but less than I deserved. Make it $300,000, and we have a deal. Mr. Brandt, $300,000, or I file a wrongful termination lawsuit that will cost you 10 times that amount in legal fees alone. Patterson looked like he was swallowing glass. I'll need to discuss this with our board. You have until tomorrow morning. I left Meridian feeling like I was finally getting somewhere. The money would give me time to figure out what came next. Maybe start my own consulting business, maybe take some time to travel, maybe just sit on a beach somewhere and forget the last month that ever happened. But first, I had one more score to settle. Mark Linton was being held at the county jail pending his bail hearing. I'd put his name on my visitor list, though I wasn't sure he'd agree to see me. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made his skin look yellow. The confident corporate executive had been replaced by a broken man who'd lost everything. Why are you here? He asked through the reinforced glass that separated us. Curiosity. About what? About why you did it. We were friends, Mark. For 15 years, we were friends. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. I was in love with her. With Erica? She made me feel like I was special, like I mattered. So you decided to destroy my life? It wasn't supposed to go that far. The plan was just to give her grounds for divorce, make you look bad so she could get a better settlement, by framing me for embezzlement. That was my idea. I thought if you were facing criminal charges, she could divorce you and claim she was the innocent sufferer. She'd get everything, and you'd be too busy fighting to stay out of prison to contest it. What about our friendship? What about it? You had everything, Alex. The job, the house, the beautiful wife. You never appreciated any of it. So you decided to take it away from me. I decided to help her get away from you. I stared at this man I thought I knew, trying to reconcile the Mark I'd been friends with for 15 years, with the Mark who'd systematically destroyed my life. Was any of it real? I asked. Our friendship, the good times, any of it? Some of it. But I was always jealous of you, Alex. You made everything look so easy. Easy? You think my life was easy? Easier than mine? I stood to leave. Enjoy prison, Mark. I hope she was worth it. Alex, wait. I turned back. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I'm sorry. You're right. It doesn't mean anything. I walked away without looking back. That evening, I sat in Brennan's pub nursing a beer and watching the news coverage of the scandal on the mounted TV. The story had everything the media loved: corporate fraud, infidelity, betrayal among friends. I was being portrayed as the innocent sufferer who'd fought back against overwhelming odds. "You're famous," Rosie said, refilling my glass. 15 minutes of fame I never wanted. At least you got your revenge. Did I? Honey, your wife lost her job and her reputation. Your friend is going to prison. Her boss had to issue a public apology. If that's not revenge, I don't know what is. She was right, of course. I'd won. I'd exposed the conspiracy, cleared my name, and destroyed everyone who'd betrayed me. But victory felt emptier than I'd expected. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Can we talk?" Erica. I'd been expecting this. I found her sitting in her car outside my house. Our house, technically, though the divorce papers would change that soon enough. She looked like she'd been crying. "What do you want?" I asked, sliding into the passenger seat. "To apologize." Little late for that? I know, but I needed to say it anyway. We sat in silence for a few minutes, two people who'd once loved each other now separated by an ocean of betrayal and regret. "I never meant for it to go as far as it did," she said finally. "Yes, you did. Alex, you planned every detail, Erica. The affair, the frame job, the divorce timing. You wanted to destroy me completely. I wanted to protect myself by sending me to prison. I didn't think it would actually come to that. I thought you'd take a plea deal, get probation, and we could both move on with our lives. With you getting everything and me getting nothing, I earned my success, Alex. I worked 60-hour weeks building my career while you coasted in middle management. So I deserve to be framed for embezzlement?" She was quiet for a long moment. "No, you didn't deserve that, but you did it anyway." I did it anyway. At least she was being honest now. Too little, too late, but honest. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you disappear from my life forever." "The divorce? Take whatever you want. I don't care about the money anymore." "Alex, get out of my car, Erica. Get out of my life." She opened the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I did love you once. Once wasn't enough." She got out and walked to her BMW without looking back. I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the night, and felt nothing but relief. 3 months later, I was sitting on a beach in Florida, watching the sunset and thinking about second chances. The Meridian settlement had been finalized at $400,000. Patterson's board had decided it was cheaper than a lawsuit. Morrison and Associates had issued their public apology, though it was so carefully worded it barely admitted any wrongdoing. Mark had pled guilty to fraud charges and been sentenced to 3 years in prison. Erica had found a new job at a smaller PR firm in another city. Morrison's business had survived the scandal, though his reputation had taken a permanent hit. As for me, I decided to take some time to figure out what came next. Maybe I'd start that consulting business. Maybe I'd write a book about corporate fraud. Maybe I'd just enjoy being free from the wreckage of my old life. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Alex Brandt?" "Speaking." "This is Jennifer Walsh from Walsh Logistics. I heard about what happened at Meridian and I wanted to discuss a business opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" "The kind that pays very well and doesn't involve backstabbing friends or cheating wives." I laughed. The first genuine laugh I'd had in months. "I'm listening." As I talked to Jennifer Walsh about consulting contracts and new beginnings, I watched the sun sink into the Gulf of Mexico and realized something important. Revenge was satisfying, but moving forward was better. Erica and Mark had tried to destroy me, but they'd actually freed me. Freed me from a loveless marriage, a dead-end job, and the illusion that loyalty meant anything in the modern world. I was 47 years old, financially secure, and completely unencumbered by the obligations that had once defined my life. For the first time in years, the future looked bright. The conversation with Jennifer Walsh lasted an hour and ended with a handshake deal worth more money than I'd made in my last 3 years at Meridian. As I hung up, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's succeeding so completely that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. I raised my beard to the darkening sky and smiled. "Thanks for setting me free," I said to the ghosts of my past. "I couldn't have done it without you." The waves crashed against the shore, washing away the footprints of the day, and I knew that tomorrow would bring new opportunities, new challenges, and new chances to build something better than what I'd lost. Mark Linton had been right about one thing. I had made everything look easy. What he'd never understood was that easy was just another word for boring. Now, finally, My life was about to get interesting.